G'day legends and welcome to the Thursday Sesh for Celtic Down Under. I'm your host Jared, and tonight we've got a full house. We've got Jared, we've got Dan, we've got Willie, and we even have Lightning McQueen in behind Dan somewhere on the floor. Happy days. So how you doing, Willie?
I'm doing all right, Jared. Yep. Busy week here in New Zealand for me. So
how you going, Dan?
Same old. Just kicking away and getting the sun down about 32 seconds before we go on air. So
happy days. Jared, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Better than I was half a week ago.
Fair enough. Good thing we didn't have you on Monday. That's all I got to say after that pod, because that was brutal.
I didn't even watch any Celtic TV or anything for about 2 days after that.
Yeah, can't blame it. So yeah, for me, like I watched the game, stayed up, and I was like, this is just a joke. Like I was that agitated. I was like, nah, didn't want to look at anything, and had to get onto it like a couple of hours before the pod, so we had some content. But yeah, what we'll do is we'll just start off the show with, we'll let you guys have a little chat about, just quick little chat about the game on the West. Yeah, I've given my thoughts on Monday, so we'll start off with you, Willie. Now, remember, we've got to get to the 5-minute mark before we start dropping some colourful, so I'm going to try and hold Dan off until then.
Shut up, Dan.
I don't know. Do you want to plug your merchandise and your websites for 5 minutes, and then we can get rid of it?
www.celticdownunder.com.
There was an awful game of football, right? You know what I mean?
Go on, Willie.
Sorry, there's a bit of a lark here. I'm not sure who it's with. Is it you or me, or you were going to plug your stuff there? And
you told
anyway,
me to plug the stuff.
I'll just say it was an awful game. It was just an awful game of football to watch, right? Yeah. Even the usually hostile Tynecastle crowd were pretty subdued throughout the game. They got so lucky throughout it. I mean, even their second goal, the guy Neuenhoff falls on his arse and still manages to get the ball to the feet of Shankland to get the goal. So it was just a truly awful game of football to watch. Like, there was 3 or 4 pass marks in our team, and then the rest is just players that went into hiding that shouldn't be happening. Like, you know what I mean? When you're down to 10 men, it's going to be hard enough as it is, but when half your team goes missing and hiding, then that's just going to make it even worse.
And Jared, anything to add to that?
I think in Scotland, there's 3 things you kind of do. Use freaking VAR, have a decent Willy Wonka experience, and throw your granny off a bus. And I think you can fix all 3 of those. Like, I don't think we should have VAR. Ever since it came in, I thought it was weird. If you're going to have VAR, it should be the exact same every game. There's some games it's like, oh, we've got 6 cameras, but this game we've only got 3 cameras. Oh, and we're only having it for these 3 games, but these 3 games aren't having it. It's like, we don't have it at all. Like, and we're wasting money on it when we've got incompetent referees using it. Like, use that money and just put them on full time and train them, get them like a bit more experience so they actually know the rules. So when they see it in slow motion, they're not like, oh, it touched his hand. But that's my opinion.
It's part of off that, Jared, as well. It's part of why, like, going back even further, like what you're saying about different cameras at different stadiums, when they're using it, how many games, all that stuff. It's even weirder because remember the first season it came in, and what they did was they didn't bring it in from the start of the season or from the winter break. No, they brought it in from like 9 games into the season as well. So it just suddenly came in as of a certain weekend, and it was just a nightmare ever since. So yeah, it's not the greatest implementation it could have been. My view on VAR is that it's just absolute rubbish no matter what, and we'll speak about that a little bit later on, ways to potentially fix it, whatever, later in the pod. But we've got through 5 minutes, Dan, so over to you.
Fucking right. Let's go. No, honestly, look, to come to the first point, the red card butchered the game. It took everything out of the game. We were probably the better side up to that point. I was critical of 1 or 2 individual performances, but you can say that about every game we've had this season, bar the Dundee game, I'd say. For me, I don't mind VAR as a concept because I don't mind if we're getting decisions right, but the theory is great. The fact that we've got part-timers and blokes that don't even have to tell us which club they support, looking at the video, and for me, it's honestly, it's fucking. I think the word on Axum was tin pot. Tin pot just describes everything the SFA does. It's always the cheapest option, the bargain basement option. How can we save a quid? And we get stuck with fucking part-time referees, part-time linesmen. There's a couple of linos that are dead set look in worse shape than me. And we're asking them to keep up with, professional athletes who, mind you, we're playing for a $60 million fucking prize or £60 million prize pool. Let's be honest. We all know what we're pushing forward for the Champions League. There is so much money on the line. You've got athletes getting paid 10, 15, 20,000 pounds a week, and we've got some fat fuck running up and down the line that can't keep up, and then potentially a camera angle that might not be straight, or someone's going to draw a fucking line across it and determine. And that's like the things they call factual decisions. And then you've got the decisions where you're asking them to be subjective or to make a decision, like a foul or a handball or something like that. And it's fucking it's ridiculous. There's no other word for it. It's ridiculous at this point. Whether it's blokes that have got fucking Rangers supporters clubs named after them or what, it doesn't matter when they're fucking incompetent. You've either got a bunch of incompetent guys or a bunch of guys that would quite happily not see us win. And I am not a ref's fault, we were dudded sort of guy. But let's be honest. The fucking red card was at worst a yellow card. At absolute worst. And that's what the ref gave it. How do you beat that? I mean,
we'll dive into that. We'll dive into that a little bit later on anyway, because otherwise we'll just go around in circles and we'll look like an episode of not follow. What's the other thing called? Heart and Hand pod or something where they're just like screaming at the moon or whatever. We don't want to be one of them. But for me, I'm looking at it, and I said on Monday, and I've said previously on the pod as well, that as you're saying, Dan, it's the 60 million up for grabs at the end of the season. It's not just that. If you look at it, the players, you look at it and say you're a Rocco Varda out of contract at the end of the season, and you're trying to get a better contract now, or to stay at the club. If he can come in and do well over the next few weeks, he may earn himself a contract. So his future's on the line. The management team's future's on the line. We've already had Mark Lawwell fall on his sword. So we need a guy to come in for that. People's jobs are on the line. If you don't do well and you've got to start cutting back because you're not getting that 50, 60 million pound coming in that you thought you were going to get, what happens? Suddenly, people get laid off. People lose their jobs. People who would have got a renewal and been kept around are like, nah, back to your parent club, or you can move on because you're getting a bit older and we'll bring a younger kid through. So there's goods and bad to it, but at the same time, you can't have people who aren't at the standard trying to keep up. Like, I look at it and go, if I was a touchy on the sideline running up and down, and I got Dazen Maeda there, and I'm trying to tell if he's on side or not, I'm not going to get within 20 meters of the guy. That's being honest. So, as you're saying, how can you do that? So what I'll do is I'll bring up some comments. RL77, can he shove your beaten under the bus? SFA. We'll be talking about that later, definitely. The Pork Chop Express, they're incompetent, cheating bastards. RL77, part-time linesmen, part-time referees, full-time Huns. Yep. And then they got Beaton will be on VAR for the derby. I can just imagine it.
He must be due a derby game. I don't think he's ref one this season yet, so he must be due one. Like,
imagine they put him in the middle. Oh God!
I think so far, was it not Willie Collum and Nick Walsh that's done them so far? So he'll either get the one at Ibrox or the one at Parkhead. He is due one. Like,
they'll give after what happened on the weekend. They'll give him the one at Ibrox. They won't let him come near Parkhead. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, well, Patrick McLaughlin saying here, the battle for Celtic, part 1, Matt McGlone, part 2, David Lowe on YouTube. Yeah, watched them myself the last couple of days. They're amazing. So and they cover off a lot of this. Then you've also got can't remember the guy's name, but he did a doco series, Anyone But Celtic. And that's on YouTube as well.
Paul
go and check that. What's that? Paul Larkin, that's the one. You go and check them out. That sort of stuff as well if you want to get in more history. But yeah, just talking about the I think your lag's gone now, Willie, as well. Finally, your internet caught up across the Dutch.
Yeah, there was a wee jitter there right at the very start. I wasn't sure where it was all going.
Oh, it's good fun. So, yeah, we're talking about VAR, and I was going to leave this topic till later, but I'll just crack straight into it now. So, Neil Lennon has stated that he believes that the VAR box needs former pro players to be involved. I want to get your thought on that, boys, because for me, I think it's good to have a different opinion, but who's going to be controlling the final press of that button? Because if you've got a VAR and then you've got an assistant VAR ref, to me, it's a little bit sus, but I can understand why Lenny's saying that. What do you reckon, Jared?
Well, realistically, the final decision comes down to the referee on the field. So who does it really matter, like, what he's getting the information from? You've got a VAR ref. If you've got other people there, they can give their opinion, and it might give the actual official on the field who's going to look at it more perspective. I mean, when you see photos of VAR, there's always the VAR ref and like two other people. So who are they in? Do they have to be referees? I mean, you've got the official referee. You can have anyone in there watching and giving their opinion, really.
I vote to put Willie in there. Willie, off you go. Get on a plane. You'll sort him out.
It'll beat John Beaton having his mates from the lodge in there.
You'll be the current version of Robert Gibson's comment here. Fergus McCann would have had all this shit sorted by lunchtime on day one. Willie will have it sorted by dinner on day two. Sort it out, Willie.
We'll just pull the fucking plug and everything. Like, just be done with it. Like, there's no point in having a foolproof system when the fools that are operating are proving it all wrong. Like, you know what I mean? It's not VAR that's the problem. It's the people who are operating it.
When you compute
on that point, like VAR, like it can be anywhere. Why don't we have VAR in England and have a couple of like England first division people sitting and watching it who don't have a horse in the race? They don't care about Scottish football. They're just going to sit with more experience, watch, and just go by the facts. That happened. Oh, that could have been a penalty. That could have been this. Like, instead of complaining about our refs not having the experience to use VAR can be down south and just have like pay a bit extra to have a proper referee full time watching and getting those decisions right.
That's where you lose it, because as soon as you say pay a bit extra, they stop listening. But no interest. It's got to be a bargain basement price, or they won't do it.
Allegedly, they're on £900 a week, like the referees.
Fucking hell.
That's insane. Like,
originally there was talk of the VAR being pulled with the Belgian, Dutch, and one other league. I think French league were all going to pull it and do like a big hub for everyone, and we were looking at getting in on that, but it got too costly for Scottish football apparently. And then they looked at setting up the same thing with the Irish league or whatever, and that never happened either. And now, as Robert's saying, the other two observers are the fluffers at Masonic Lodge. But RL77 here, back to the question. If VAR had former players, it'd be similar to the makeup of a sports scene pundits. Oh, God, yeah.
That's the problem. You end up with a Chris Boyd or someone on it.
Yeah.
Hey, Willie, according to RL77, you're on $16.90 a week.
I know.
Dan, you got anything to add on Neil Lennon's comments?
No, not really. Look, it is what it is. As you said, the final decision rests with the referee, but he clearly had no confidence in his original decision. You've got someone who's watching video tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, you probably need to rethink that. I think you're more likely to change your decision. It's pretty rare that they go and look at the monitor and go through all that and then stick with the decision. It does happen, but it's pretty rare. You're at Tynecastle, shit's kicking off, your adrenaline's up in heat of the moment. It's just so much more likely, I reckon, to make that decision in favour of the home team there.
Yeah, that's what John Clements is saying in the comments. Is like when you're in a hostile environment like Tynecastle, the minute Beaton calls the ref over, weakling Don Robertson is under immense pressure to change his decision. And as Pegleg saying, Jock Steen was 100% right. Celtic a lot of the time are up against the refs as well as the opposition. And then John's followed up, Pears Beaton is obviously a higher ranked Mason than Robertson. There we go.
The thing with that as well is it's not just, you used to say it was 12 against 11 when it was just you against the ref. It's 13 against 11 now because the VAR ref's in there too. Like, so.
Keep going, Willie. You got to put it, Adam, keep adding you in. You've got the referee, the fourth official, the 2 linesmen, and the 2 VAR. So you're against, what's that, six extras, you're in 17 against 11.
Horrible.
But when you look at it, Robertson actually didn't do a too bad a job. He gave a yellow card for that, and then was pressured. He didn't give the handball. Then it was sent to VAR. So on the field, he was doing a decent job. He's probably just gutless and didn't want to go against John Beaton. I don't know what happened over there. But if they just let it happen on the field, he would have done a decent job. Except I don't think it was a penalty to us either. But
yeah, I said that on Monday. I think it was a soft penalty, but you know, if it's the other way around, I'll be up in arms and everything like the dyed Huns are. But yeah, we'll go from there.
And another thing that annoyed me as well, like we were talking about linesmen, like they've become redundant these days. Like you look at Matt O'Reilly's goal, like that was an offside pass that everyone saw was offside, and so we all just went, okay. But then we waited for Ida to get the ball, dribble around for a bit, pass it to Matt O'Reilly, score a goal, and then it's like, oh yeah, but 5 minutes ago that was offside. Like, why are they letting him dribble the ball around? Like that, technically, that should have been play on. By the time he dribbled the ball, done a couple of football moves, passed the ball, that's now play on. You can't come back and call it offside now. It's either offside at the time or play on, like if it was a foul. Like that does my head in. It's making this the game just not watchable.
I said on
and
Monday,
sport is entertainment.
I said on Monday, Jared, that the thing as well with that exact one was with how much extra play happened. How many opportunities were there for a player to get injured, both in attack and defense, after the linesman should have put his flag up, and he didn't? So at that point, I just think it's a health and safety risk above all else. If you really wanted to, imagine Ida runs through, he's offside, and then he clatters into someone because a cross comes in, and the guy breaks his cheekbone because it's like a clash of heads or something, and they fall to the ground. Can you imagine the uproar from the Hearts fans? Yeah, exactly. So Yang's red card, we appealed it and it was thrown out. So Celtic have written to the SFA to raise serious concerns about VAR and decisions in the Hearts game as we appealed it. Now, we always said the appeal got thrown out. There was a few issues there which is supposed to be dealt with. But the question for you guys is, were you stunned that the red was held, or did you think it would get downgraded to a yellow? Because for me, I was like, there's no chance. He made the right call at first, and then it was upgraded. Letter of the law on a still photo, it makes sense, but for me, it's no good. But I just want to know, because the actual quote was that the Hoops have been left astonished by the outcome. So, Willie, what's your thoughts?
I'm not surprised it was upheld. I mean, they've just stood by the referees. They're just going to dig in with them, and it's just going to come down to a straight out dogfight between us and them now. Like, but there's no way that's a red card in this day and age. I mean, he's miscontrolled the ball. He stuck his foot up to get it, and he's not looking at Cochrane. There's no way he's aiming that foot at Cochrane's head, and Cochrane sort of dives in, lowers his head in towards where his boot is, and the contact, if there is any, I've seen it back from a few angles. I don't know if there is contact or not. It's minimal. Cochrane doesn't go down on the ground and start rolling around holding his head. He just stands off at the side of the pitch, and Yang goes up and they shake hands and they move on. He gets his yellow card and they go to start again. Why John Beaton's got involved there's no clear and obvious error, right? I don't see where the error was not. As Gerard said, I think Don Robertson made the right call, and I think he had a decent game, and it wasn't until John Bean started putting second thoughts in his head in his ear the whole time, that he crumbled and his incompetency was that he couldn't stand his own convictions. So it's just going to come down to a dogfight between us and the SFA, and hopefully Celtic will back Brendan Rodgers on this and come out all guns blazing on his side.
Yeah, I hope so too, because that's part of the talk, that apparently we're going to take it pretty highly and we'll go from there. So yeah, well, that was actually the next topic on that, Willie. So we'll leave the Brendan Rodgers thing for a minute and we'll just focus on the Yang thing. So there's a couple of comments there that I wanted to bring up. So Robert Gibson was never in a million years going to be rescinded. We were talking just before about the linesmen not putting their flags up. Patrick was saying that time doesn't get added on again. It's just wasted letting play go on. I hadn't even thought of that. Jared, what's your thoughts on the whole Yang situation with the card?
Look, I didn't think it was a red, because he had his foot up in the air and the Hearts player was running towards him, but it all happened very quick. So in real time, it was a good call, yellow card, because he just had his foot up. But yeah, when you slow it down, it looks a lot worse. And then it gets to the point where it's like people are saying definitely not a red, and other people are saying yes, it's a red. When it's that, it's kind of like 50-50, then you just got to go with whatever the call was. But when you go back to it, it's not a 2-match suspension red. Like, okay, he's already missed 1 match. That was almost a whole game he missed for that. It wasn't completely dangerous. He didn't hit him in the face. There was no malice. And if it was a proper judiciary that was actually just looking at facts, it would be like, all right, he's missed the game. That's fine. The issue that I knew was going to be overturned is because of the comments afterwards about the referees. Now the SFA are like, even if we want to, we can't, because now we'd be agreeing with Brendan Rodgers that the referees are incompetent and we want to suspend him. But how can we suspend him if we're going, well, we agree and you're right? So it then had nothing to do with the actual tackle, the actual high foot, the actual red card. It all came down to we can't prove Rodgers right.
Yep, and that's something that Patrick McLaughlin said here as well. He goes, I'm only surprised the SFA never added an extra game onto the ban because we had the audacity to appeal it. That ties into something there as well, because it could have been a red card with where you get the 3-game ban. So the only thing I think going for him could have potentially have been that it was early in the red in the first half. So he hit the quota where he's off beforehand. So maybe they counted that, but I thought we got lucky there. Now, Dan, what's your thoughts on that? And then we'll crack on to the Rodgers being charged by the SFA talk after that.
Yeah, look, it was never ever going to be rescinded. We all knew that. We had to appeal it because, show a bit of courage in our conviction and stand by our principles. We had to put our hand up and say we were dudded, but it was never going to get rescinded. We move on. We knew what we were going to get. We know we're up against it. We always know that, but we know well and truly we're up against it. So let's just focus on what's within our control.
Yep, 100%. So, yeah, the next topic we're talking about is the Brendan Rodgers being charged by the SFA for his post-match comments about the referees and actually name dropping. So I've got the actual ruling that he's been charged on and everything here. So Brendan Rodgers has been charged with disciplinary rule 72 by the SFA, where a member of team staff cannot criticise the decisions of the officials to indicate incompetence. So, and then basically, regardless or not, whether we agree with it, since Rodgers used the word incompetence and that's specifically mentioned, he was pretty much certainly going to be found guilty. So the low end suspension he can get for this is a 2-match ban. Top end is 8 matches. With the date that they put it in for, which is the end of the month. So 28th of March. If he cops a 2-game ban, he'll miss the game against Livy and then away at Ibrox. So the actual disciplinary rule breached is rule number 72, no recognised football, body, club official, team official, or other member of team staff, player, or other person under the jurisdiction of the Scottish FA shall in an interview, a blog on the internet, on a social networking or microblogging site, or in any other manner calculated manner calculated or likely to lead to publicity, criticise the decisions and or performances of any or all match officials in such a way as to indicate bias or incompetence on the part of such match officials. And then there's a whole bunch more crap after that. So that's the main part there that they've charged him. So, Dan, I'll go to you first. What's your thoughts on the whole situation there, and how do you see this playing out?
It's almost one of those situations where you pull the money out and throw it in the swear jar right before you swear, because you know it's worth it. He hit the mark. I thought, his two main criticisms were the red card to Yang and the penalty against Iwata, which was ridiculous in my opinion. He hit all the indicators or the marks, as you said, that they're going to ping him. He said the word incompetent. He used the name. He's going to be found guilty. If what you said there, if it's between a 2 or an 8 game suspension, obviously 2 games is better. But as you said, that also means that he's going to be in the stands at Ibrox. So it's not great, but again, I think he just echoed what we wanted. He's normally pretty cool, calm, and collected when it comes to those post-game press conferences, but he's obviously pretty riled up. He knows he's in a title fight here, and I think he knows he's fighting for his job in the long term. So I hope it's more buying into he's building the siege mentality, which, he has been building for a little while now, and I thought we really responded to when we went into the Dundee game, but that does look a little more and more an aberration. But we don't need to falsely create a siege mentality, because we are, we do have our backs against the wall, and it is us against the rest. Let's be honest. Nobody wants to see us win this, apart from Celtic fans. So, I think he had to say it. I think he had to put it out there for maintaining his own self-respect. And I think we all respected that he said it. And it was, pretty tame compared to what we were saying, but he's the one that's going to cop those consequences. So I just hope that they're not, not too bad.
Yeah, so I'll just bring up some comments here. So Patrick McLaughlin, it was inevitable he was going to get charged. Patrick's also said if they rescinded the red card and Rodgers is off scot-free, basically. So that's what we were saying before. That was definitely was going to happen. Robert Gibson with his completely out there stuff. I love it. Rodgers would be hung, drawn, and quartered by the SFA if they could get away with it. 9,000-year touchline ban minimum coming now. Good thing it's a maximum 8 games, Robert. If it was your world like that, it'd be a bit out there. Paul Galanti, Rodgers should have chosen his words more carefully. Using the word incompetence has him banged to rights. Yep. Patrickson saying next time appeal the red card, then blast the referees once the decision's made. Also saying it's about time one of our managers spoke up about it. And then Patrick, again, another comment here. You're on fire tonight, Patrick. It's about the only thing Rodgers has got right this season. So before I'll go to you, Willie. RL77 has a question. I wonder why current player Andy Halliday gets away with his comments on the Clyde Super Scoreboard. What do you reckon, Willie?
I try to tune out when Andy Halliday's talking. I can't be bothered with him. He's just so pro Rangers, and he'd rather talk about Rangers than Hearts or Motherwell, whoever he's playing for. And I think the time he turned around and says, I didn't deliberately try to injure Callum McGregor when I tackled him. I think it was one of Ange's first games. It's just like, you're the only person in this country that actually believes that, Andy. So I just try to tune out when he starts talking. I don't really pay any attention to what he has to say. So you might want to enlighten us with some of his comments and what he said, but I'm not too aware of them.
Yeah. And Jared, what's your overall thoughts on the?
I'm glad he used the word incompetent because it's the most accurate. But I mean, even the Celtic fans were just like, yeah, back time, someone said it. Going to get suspended, but good on you. Who gives a fuck? The thing I don't get is why is it 28 days for the hearing when Celtic fans are like, yeah, he's getting suspended. Good on him. So why is it taking everyone else so long to choose? Like, just suspend him from now. Give him 2 weeks. Give him 3 weeks. But the thing is, like, he wasn't wrong. So, like, it needs to go further. But because he said it, it's been in the media for the the whole week. So now, like, hopefully the refs are going to have a think about what they're going to do, because they're under a microscope now. I would hope. Who knows? But why is it taking 28 days?
So apparently, Jared, the reason for that is they need to give everyone involved, so 3 weeks or whatever they're saying, and this is in their bylaws or something, to do their for SFA to do their investigation into it properly, for the club to build their case and everything like that. I'm like, come on, it's pretty obvious.
It'll take 3 weeks of shaking the tin to get the money to get everyone in the same room as well. Don't forget.
It'll take about 3 weeks to go through everyone on Beaton's decisions that's gone against us. Like,
did you say that, Willie? Thank you very much for a perfect segue.
No.
One of those red tops said, Celtic boss Brendan Rodgers has history with John Beaton that stretches back 5 years. So according to Neil Lennon, again, he's the one saying this, so I don't know, you can take it with a grain of salt. He took charge of Rangers' 1-0 win over Celtic years ago. Oh, that's the one on the weekend, sorry. But Celts were furious when Alfredo Morelos was stomping on all their boys and kicking Scott Brown. And
that's right.
Yeah. So that was where it all started, where Beaton said that he got death threats and all this sort of stuff. And then there was a whole bunch of stuff. So it goes back. These guys have had 2 or 3 blow-ups since then. So it goes right back. They clearly don't like each other. I don't blame him. But something you said, Jared, which I found funny was, and I'm going to go with it here as well, Michael Ross. For me, Rodgers didn't go far enough.
Yeah.
I'm the sort, when I used to coach basketball, right, like with the state league and everything, we had a team rule that if you got a tech foul, you had to put a slab into the end of season kitty for a massive piss up at the end of the season, right? I knew I was going to get at least 2 a season. So what I did first, I think it was first or second game, I rocked up, gave the team manager 2 slabs and said, okay, I'm good for a little while. Now let me coach. So it was like prepaying your fine because you know what's going to happen. As soon as this happened with Rodgers, we're all like, yeah, get in, mate. We know what's going to happen. He's going to get charged. So, yeah, as Pegleg's saying, it's a kangaroo court. It's a waste of time. Here we go. And Robert Gibson are working the courts, and this has got kangaroo written all over it. Those poor kangaroos, they don't deserve this. But, yeah, it's the end of the day, it's a shambles. RL70 saying Rodgers deliberately picked that fight. If Beaton called for a penalty review against current rules and he isn't incompetent, then how do they explain that? Exactly. So their penalty was actually against the current IFAB rules, but that's beside the point. So all over, it's a bit of a shambles. But we'll
they've got the SFA had 2 choices here. I mean, they either double down on this or they came out and just say, look, John Beaton is incompetent, because the other option is that they turn around and say, well, yeah, actually, I don't think John Beaton can fairly officiate a game involving Celtic or Rangers. So they're going to just have to double down on it and try and back him up and say, no, he's made all the right calls here, there, and everywhere, but he hasn't. Like, in every walk of life, you're taught about unconscious bias. You know what I mean? The unconscious bias is always going to happen. You go on a work site, the boss's son is there. He's always going to get favoritism over you, even if you try not to show it. But everywhere in life, this happens, except Scottish football. Scottish football officials are superheroes who can put unconscious bias to one side as soon as they step over the white line. It doesn't happen. Like, you know what I mean? And my hope is that the club are going to stand by Brendan Rodgers this and back him to the hilt, because it's about time they came out and started fighting for us. They've sat in that boardroom counting their pennies for too long, doing nothing about it. I mean, this last couple of months, we've been getting labelled as anti-Semitic from people in Israel, and the club is absolutely silent on it. The whole Leo Lubaba issue, like, there's people coming out now saying that he has to leave Celtic because he's getting hassled in the street and that. The club have said nothing about this. If this has happened, then it should be called out, and the club should be trying to find out who the perpetrators of this are and have them banned from Parkhead for life. But it's just radio silence in the background, and it's getting alarming that it's coming to this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we are ready to go to war with the SFA over this, and the club's just sitting there just silently, just doing nothing about it. Like,
yeah, 100%. And
it kind of made me think of a comment you made before about the referees taking turns on refereeing the Old Firm. matches. Now, some of them always have a obvious bias. They just have terrible games. So why do they have to take turns? If there's been one referee in the last 5 years that has refereed and it's like, oh, he does a really good job of refereeing Celtic Rangers games, and there's just put him on all of them. Why does everyone have to take turns? Not especially if there is unconscious bias or whatever, just say, hey, I grew up a Motherwell fan. It's all right, well, guess what? We've got plenty of referees. Don't do Motherwell games, or it's not that hard to fix. And if John Beaton does ever referee an Old Firm game, then that they're not doing the due diligence, because there's obvious bias now. And if the SFA actually put him in charge of one of those games, that wouldn't happen in other sports.
I think it goes deeper than that, though. It's not just about Beaton and Old Firm games. You've got a guy that clearly has an issue, even if you take away the fact that he's, clearly a lifelong Hun. He's got an issue with Celtic. He's had the, whatever it was, 2018 game where he got death threats. You can't tell me, even if there was no conscious or unconscious bias against Celtic before that he referees Celtic the same way when he's been sent death threats by our fans. He shouldn't be taking charge of Celtic games, full stop. We're in a title race that's going to be decided by, a fraction of a fucking millimeter. We had a chance to go top after they somehow managed to fuck up. And we've got this bloke playing a key role in that game. That's the problem. It's not just the Old Firm games. He shouldn't be he shouldn't be refereeing Rangers or Celtic. If you go to England, there's no way a guy that grew up supporting Newcastle is going to get charge of a Newcastle game or a Sunderland game. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it's just so fucking... Tin pot is the perfect word. I don't want to come here and just rehash what was said on Axum, but tin pot is the word. It's just so fucking lazy and bottom barrel shit.
You've got referees, ex-referees going round supporters' dues after dinner speech and telling Rangers fans that I wouldn't give them a penalty for that, you know what I mean? And it's just disgusting, you know what I mean? I think it works both ways. We're sitting there talking about John Beaton right now. 8 weeks ago, Rangers fans were all up in arms, jumping up and down on the spot about Willie Collum. And we all know why they don't want Willie Collum and Kevin Clancy reffing their games. You know what I mean? The two of them are Catholics, and the Rangers board has both had tried to get both of them banned from refereeing Rangers games. So it's just, as you say, Dan, it's tin pot. It's absolutely tin pot. And I've said this before on this show, and I'll say it again. The last time a game in Scottish football was refereed fairly, our referees were on strike.
100%.
It's fairly simple.
On Monday, we spoke about having a register for referees and who they support and family things. And Peglegs mentioned this here as well. So I think the refs in England have to declare who they support and also who their family members support and where they live. So don't say if you live in Derby, you're not going to go against any of their rivals or do any of their games. So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one here. Also about the VAR stuff, there's been a few comments here. There's over 100 of you tuned in, which is amazing to see. Thanks everyone, appreciate that. But two things, I'm surprised the comments didn't light up when a couple of the boys mentioned Old Firm before, when that's dead and it's a Glasgow derby.
Yeah, as soon as I said it.
I'm sitting here,
I just rolled on.
oh shit, here goes the comments. I was waiting on that. So, but the other thing is as there's been a bunch of comments here, I'll bring up Michael's one. Does Celtic not pay the most for VAR? Yes, we do, because it's paid with the European money and whatever out of everyone's a portion of that. So realistically, yeah, we'll we should just pull that out if it's going to be rubbish and they're going to absolutely stitch us up like this. Robert, that's the best thing here. We just ignore the term. And Patrick is saying, I'm a Queen's Park fan. Yeah, 100%. And then Michael's saying they would just lie about who they supported. Yeah, I know. That's the issue. You'd have a whole lot of, Killy fans and Motherwell fans and stuff like that. So it would suddenly get interesting. But unless you boys have got anything else to add on the whole refereeing debacle sort of thing, we'll crack on to the name of the episode tonight. Bye-bye, Berna. So news has come out, obviously, about Alessandro Bernabei being linked with, I've written the team down, bear with me, linked with Brazilian club SC Internacional on loan for the rest of the season with an option for them to make the deal permanent. So basically that'll take us out with no actual, unless Mitchell Frames fit, no actual backup left back. Ralston would be the backup for right back and left back. I've got some comments here, so we'll bring them up a bit later on, but I want to get Jared's thoughts because he's got the pen in the mouth like he's thinking he's ready to go. Got a big point to make.
Magnus McKenzie. He is a young kid who's just been called up to the Scotland under-9 team with Dan Kelly. He's a left back. Like, I'd love to see him on the bench for the next game, see what he can do. I mean, Ralston, when he went in at left back, I think he done a decent job. Like, decent enough, like better than Bernabei. Like, he actually defended. But, while Mitchell Frames out, like, let's see what this Magnus McKenzie can do. I mean, if he's getting called up to the Scottish under-19s,
get him in.
And we've got him sitting there.
Get him in.
Have a look.
It can't be worse. It can't be worse.
Look, it's how Tierney broke in. Izagiri's got knocked, got injured, whatever. And it's like, oh, well, who else do we have? No one. Well, we have to bring through the young kid. So Tierney got through, and that's how he did it. So I have no complaints with that idea at all there, Jared. Thumbs up. I'm all for it.
All right, that's me done then.
He's retiring.
George Costanza. I'm gonna be George Costanza. Like, all right, I'm out. Finish on top.
Yeah. RL77 about Bernabei. Disappointed that Celtic never got to arrange a tour of the Falklands. And then we've got, he must think that Scales or Frame is a better option at left back. Yeah, more than likely.
Kitman's a better option.
Yeah, so I'll go through some comments and then we'll go through the rest of it. So Patrick McLaughlin, he wasn't any better than Lack Salt. Don't cry for wee Alexandro. Michael Ross, well done. Robert Gibson, better drunk than a footballer. Pork Chop Express never got a chance in his normal position of wing back as he's never a left back. The only thing he was left back at the clubhouse when he got the internal suspension for getting on the piss. Yep. He had the positional sense of Stevie Wonder in a maze. That is brilliant.
And driving ability.
That's good. I like that.
Getting hammered on the bucky after the first couple of weeks, the club did him no favours. Yep. Patrick is Celtic and South American players don't mix well. Michael Ross responded to that. Patrick, that's why we never bothered trying to lure Messi to the club. Pegleg was saying Bernabei just wasn't a fullback. He's nowhere near as bad as some people make out. I put him in the same sort of class for us as I put Bolingoli. The thing that went against Bolingoli is he just got horny. And he just wanted during the pandemic, he broke rules. He just had to go fly overseas because he wanted to get his end away. That was the issue with him. Same sort of player in that they're probably both wing backs, not left backs, and their positional sense was all over the joint. So that was Bolingoli's thing. Bernabei's thing was he just wanted to get on the bucky, and get drunk. So, and then Damien saying the lads find it harder. Lads find it harder to pass a bar than a ball. So, Willie, what's your thoughts on Berna?
Good goodbye and good riddance. I'm afraid an absolute waste of £4 million. That a lot of people are saying that we're selling our backup left back and we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be sort of leaving ourselves short like that. But I'd rather have no backup left back than him going on the pitch again. Like watching him play and his positional sense is just absolutely shocking. Okay, he could whip in some tasty balls in the attacking position, but he'd make no attempt at getting back to do his defensive duties at any time. As soon as he went up the pitch, he would just linger around up there and hope that something would break and fall to him. So, and as Jared says, I'd sooner have an under-18 playing and learning week in, week out from many mistakes that are made. But it's just draw a line under this episode and just say, right, that one didn't work. Let's move on.
Yep, 100%. Dan, you got anything to add?
Just that he'll be one of those players that we forever are forced to kind of remember. And someone starts talking about someone being shit, we'll be like, yeah, but do you remember Bernabei 3 or 4 years ago? So You know,
actually,
we'll never truly be gone. You know,
I actually don't think it's going to be that bad because what I think is for him, get him in the right system, in a right sort of a league that suits him as well. I actually think he's got the potential because there's a lot of teams in Italy and Spain that were linked with him as well. That I think he's the sort of player where if he goes he goes over to Brazil, plays well there for 18 months or so, they'll sell him to someone in Portugal or a lower tier Spanish team or whatever, and he could do well there and make a career for himself and be a guy who's playing for a team in the Europa League. So he could run into him down the road, but he's not going to do it for us.
Let's make a bet, because I reckon you got about a year and a half and he'll be playing for the same park team in Perth that fucking Lee Griffiths was playing for. And whatever they pay him will be too much.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What do we got here? Robert Gibson's comments. Lannis are still pissing themselves at us. And then Robert's also saying, go and buy his shit mullet and fling him anywhere. Hey, nothing wrong with a mullet. You just got to have game to be able to rock that up. Volleyball and goalie, perfect example of our recruitment. Problem with Taylor's size solution, bringing someone smaller. Exactly. We've done it both times. And Pegleg saying, pity frames out. He looked promising in the Champions League. Yeah, exactly. So we've got some options there. It's not ideal, but hooroo, jog on, have fun, and yeah. As long as we get some good money and we cover our costs realistically with future fee international, if we can get €4 million for him, which is pretty much what we paid, get our money back. We just lost the wages. Yeah, I doubt that'll happen. They'll probably be lucky to get a quarter of it.
It's just like I've stopped caring about what we get for people when we sell because I've realized we're not actually going to put it back in and buy someone better anyway. So who gives a crap?
Fair point.
Get him out.
Get him off the payroll. Can we send him James McCarthy as well?
Buy one, get one free.
Pretty much, yeah. Okay, so we've got a game on the weekend. We'll just chat on that. So we're playing Livingston at Celtic Park on Sunday in the Scottish Cup. So that game is being shown over here in Australia on Paramount Plus, and I think this was the one you said, Jared, was it about it's on 10 Play?
Oh, yeah, it's on 10 Play now, yeah.
So we can actually get it over here on, on regular TV, not needing Celtic TV to watch the game. So, yeah, the same channel that you get to watch the A-League over here. If you're a Paramount Plus subscriber, it's on there. If you've got the 10 Play app, you can get the game on there and watch it there as well. So, yeah, a bit of a good one. I've got 3 ways to watch the game now on the weekend. Happy days. I can have it on multiple screens. Hopefully, I don't get a massive lag on one of them. But, yeah, I'm thinking matchups to look out for. I think is irrelevant. We'd normally talk about that for our games coming up in the league. It's a cup game, so the matchups aren't the thing. It's more about making sure we take our chances in front of goals. That is the main thing for me. You got anything that certain areas of the game that you're thinking are going to be vitally important to get in the win, Dan?
Oh, look, Livingston are fucking awful. They are really bad. If we don't beat Livingston, pack it the fuck in. Like, this is go home because they're terrible. I honestly, the young fella up front is about it, and he's got no one behind him or any service. So fair dinkum. There's no specific matchups. This just needs to be a win. There needs to be no drop in the standard. If we play like we played in the first 10, 15 minutes in the Hearts game, we should be 2 or 3 up by then, let's be honest. So who gives a fuck who plays for Livingston? Let's just get it done. It's Tete Yengi, the one I'm thinking of, the Aussie fella. I like him. He's got something about him, but the rest of them are fucking terrible. So
realistically, then we're going to play against 2 blocks of like a block of 5 and a block of 4. So it's going to be one of those ugly games where we just try and break it down. And then Yengi that you're talking about, he's quick he's got a bit of speed about him, so they'll try and hit him on the counter.
Just be careful saying block because it reminds David Martindale of cell block 1, cell block 2, cell block 3.
I thought you were talking about his bricks of cocaine, whatever he's got in his pocket as well, or in his boot of his car. Yep, loving it. So, Jared, what are you thinking will be our starting lineup? And give us your score prediction.
Oh, geez. My score prediction is 1-0. Because I think they're just going to defend. I don't know why, because they need to try and get off a bottom place, but I think they're just going to defend. We're going to struggle getting crosses into Ida because they're all tall. So I think we're going to struggle to get goals. And the lineup, like that, when you were talking about matchup, I was like, oh, I don't know what matchup because we don't know what the hell we're going to be playing. I don't know what formation we're going to come out in. I don't know, of course, a back line, same. Johnson, CCV, Scales, Taylor, Hart, whatever. I still think we should put Iwata in, even though he didn't have a great game. I think his head went down I think he let down the team with that penalty, so I think he needs to bounce back. I think he'll bounce back this game. O'Reilly, and it's more about like what formation do we do up front, because we don't really have a right back a right wing unless we bring in Kun, but people don't like that idea. I think we should. I think he'll get a hat trick. I don't know. Just put Ida up front, Maeda, Kyogo. I think we should just go to Willie because I'm going to agree with what Willie's about to say.
Willie Collum, the ref, because that's what Robert's like in the comments, or Willie, Dutch bro in Jandelland.
I actually think like Livingston's going to come out with 5 across the back and have 2 fullbacks and 3 centre halves. So I think it'd be a chance to try and sacrifice the width because you're not going to get any joy out there and go for this central Christmas tree formation that I keep trying to plug. Hopefully, someone at Celtic Park's listening to this and sees it and gives it a go, I think it would work well because that way you get both Kyogo and Maeda on the pitch as well as he does. So, and you don't have to worry about if the winger is going to come out and actually play and hit a bit of form, or is he going to have a stinker again? So,
death, taxes, and Willie thumping for the Christmas tree.
Yep, 100%. It's your score.
People say it's dated, but Real Madrid won the Champions League with it the other season, so it's not that dated.
Score prediction, Willie.
3-0. I think we'll take them apart. I think we'll get an early goal. It'll settle the nerves, and we'll just pick them off. 3-0.
Robert Gibson is saying Martindale still looks like a nose candy dealer. Patrick McLaughlin is 3-1 Celtic, Hart, Ralston, CCV, Scales, Taylor, Awada, O'Reilly, Palmer, Kyogo, Ida, Maeda. Dan, what's your lineup and your score prediction?
Look, nothing revolutionary. I've put it in the 4-3-3 because I just think that's, of course, what we're going to play. Hart, Johnson, Carter-Vickers, Scales, Taylor, Iwata, O'Reilly, and Bernardo is the midfield 3. Doesn't exactly fill me with a lot of confidence, but Kyogo on the right, Maeda on the left, and Ida in the middle. Try and avoid relying on wing play because we're clearly not getting the most out of it, as Willie said. So we can be direct and just try and work our way, pick a path through the back 7 or 8 or whatever they're going to end up playing. And score prediction, you said 3-0, Willie. I'll go 3-1. We might cop a shitty goal somewhere. Yenge beats us on a counter or something.
Okay, so we've got a 1-0 for Jared. We've got a 3-0 for Willie. We've got a 3-1 for you, Dan. I'm not even going to worry about the starting lineup. The only thing I'd be looking at would possibly be I wouldn't play Kyogo at all in this game. I'd be playing Maeda as a backup striker because it's a cup game and we should have enough about us, but keep him in reserve because his shoulder's pretty banged up. Other than that, we're going to win 6-0. I'm actually feel like the goals that we missed out on did not take on the weekend. We're going to come out with a point to prove. We're going to batten down the hatches because of all the bullshit going on. And we're just going to come out and we're just going to scalp someone. And unfortunately, if Martindale had hair, he wouldn't by the end of the game because his scalp would be taken off. So 2 to Ida. Awada's going to score, O'Reilly will score 2, and Palmer will score 1. There you go. Going to win 6-0. It's happening. Mark it. And bag me out for it on Monday's pod if it doesn't happen.
I can actually hear Martindale whinging already about the game in my ear, and I'm just thinking about it. Like, you know what I mean? Post-match comments complaining about the budgets and everything.
Oh, yeah. And
Fucking
his
miserable.
players
Isn't he?
aren't used to playing on turf. That'll be one. He loves that one as well. He went to Aberdeen earlier in the season and they got beat, and he come back going, "Oh, my players aren't used to the bounce of a ball on the turf up here."
Yeah.
Like, you only play up there twice a year. You guys are playing on plastic. It's no one else's fault but your own.
Yeah. I had 2 players in the lineup that were under 6'4". It's not fair.
Martindale gets paid by the gram. Martin Deal. There's a few others going to love it. So what we'll do is we'll throw to our final thoughts. Thanks everyone to tuning in. It's been an absolutely crazy episode to have this many tuning in this week. Appreciate it. And yeah, if you haven't done so, you like what we're doing here, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, like the video, comment, tell your mates about the show. We go live every Monday and Thursdays. So have a great weekend, all of you. And yeah, we'll go through our final thoughts. So we'll start with you, Jared.
Final thought. I am waiting for Brisbane to get a version of the Willy Wonka experience because I really want to go. Unfortunately, it's called like the Willy Chocolate experience. I went to the wrong one and went to the Chocolate Willy experience.
You were hanging out with Dan, weren't you? I had to say it.
No context. You guys make me sound like a fucking deviant, eh?
No comment. Willie?
Since we're all talking about penises, John Beaton's a fucking cheat.
Dan, you got a final thought?
I did have one, but I'm going to throw it out and just I'm going to mimic my favorite little soundbite on there. Fuck your king, up the Celtic.
Hey. And for me, my final thought is it's a long weekend down here in Melbourne. So yeah, enjoy it. We're all going to be cooking. And so if you're down in Melbourne, yeah, slip, slop, slap, I suppose. And hail, hail, everyone.
Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
You know?